Because as you say, it's going to be the Pentagon. It's going to be the World Trade Center. It's going to be someone somewhere. And the more minutes you are on that desk, the higher the chance, even if it's a very small chance, even if it's somebody who doesn't work on terror, maybe it's somebody who only works finance in North Korea, right? But they go, look, this is emergency. Everyone understands. You don't need to explain this. You just go, stop what you're doing. Look at financial transactions related to who purchased these plane tickets. Do this. You just go full spectrum. You go anything you can do. Building a team, that's what we signed up for. Nobody wants that, right? That's not a desired outcome. But if they had asked the staff to do that, they all would have agreed. That's what these people signed up to do. And yet the director goes, no, we're just no. Like, we're not going to take that risk. And this is, I think, it says so much about the bureaucratic character of how government works. Right? The people who rise to the top of these governments. It's about risk management for them. It's about never being criticized for something. And this is, if we want to get really controversial, this is something that will haunt me, because people bring it up again and again and again. People ask about, people still criticize me. In the book, I talk about aliens and chemtrails and things like that. In fact, there's no evidence for that. I went looking on the network, right? And I know, Joe, I know you want there to be aliens to do. I know Neil deGrasse Tyson badly wants there to be aliens. And there probably are, right? But the idea that we're hiding, if we are hiding, I have ridiculous access to networks of the NSA, the military, all these groups. I couldn't find it. So and it could be hidden. It's hidden really damn well, even from people who are on the inside. But the main thing is, conspiracy theories, right? Everybody wants to believe in conspiracy theories because it helps life make sense. It helps us believe that somebody is in control, right? That somebody is calling the shots. That these things all happen for a reason, this, that, and the other. There are real conspiracies, but they're not typically, they've got tens of thousands of people working on them unless you're talking. It's very clear to me, as somebody working on things, not during this period, of course, I was too young, but in fact, the government says that the government knows that the reason they these tax refunds and they want to prevent stove they break down the walls and the restrictions that were changing patriots at the NSA, CIA, and FBI from all over the world. To some extent, they were there for some of the agencies were supposed to play ball with each other. Those are procedural and policy limits, in some cases legal limits, that we should without the process, without doing this study, without basically asking for permission, for sign off, or anything else. If the FBI wanted to send absolutely everything they had to the CIA, they could have done so. If the CIA wanted to send everything they had to the FBI, they could have done so. They didn't, and people died as a result. Now, government rules, bureaucratic proceduralism, was responsible, and it's because we had too many restrictions on intelligence. And this is what makes the world function well, although it's sort of that. And then the restrictions on what these agencies can do are often used. Therefore, naturally, we just have to unchain these guys and everything will be better, right? And if you remember that post 9/11 moment, you can understand how it actually could come off as persuasive. Wind back the tape to that pre-9/11, wind back the tape to those silos and those walls that they say we need to come down because that was restraining them. Instead of the rules that said, well, you can't share these things, but there's got to be a basis, there's got to be a justification. You've got to go acquiring, trading people's information, baseball cards, and all of this stuff. It's super easy as an intelligence officer to justify sharing information about a suspected terrorist who you think is planning to kill people. Or is even just in a country that should be, or a place that should be, or doing something you don't think they should be, with another agency, because no one's going to question it. A judge is going to question it. Any judge in the world will stamp that warrant without even thinking about it and go to bed that night, not caring about it. Because you're not signing a judge, you're not signing a human rights defender, right? This is not an edge case. This is someone that you believe to be associated with Al-Qaeda. Now, this is all a lot of preamble to say that essential fact. Government agrees, everyone agrees, the attacks probably could have been prevented if information had been shared. So, why wasn't the information shared? Government says information wasn't shared because of these restrictions, and it's half true. Because every important lie has some kind of truth to it. And there were these barriers. But the reality is, why were these barriers respected in the case of a major terrorist plot? Why wasn't the CIA sharing information with the FBI? Why wasn't the FBI sharing information with the NSA? Why was the NSA sharing information with the CIA in the case of a major terrorist plot? And if you look their solution is want to take the hit. And to be honest, the government had no interest in putting a hit on them. To be honest, the public had no interest in putting a hit on them at the time. Because everybody understood terrorism is a real thing. There are bad people in the world, and that's true. Like there's always going to be criminals, there's always going to be terrorists. Whether they're at your church, whether they're across the ocean, there are people out there who are angry, they're disenfranchised, they're violent, and they just want to harm something. They want to change something, even in a negative way, because that's what they feel is all they have left. Which, these are crews, right? These are people that we don't need to pity. But if we ever want to stop it, we do need to understand it, where these things come from, where there's drives in the first place. But, basically, everybody went, all right, how do we stop this? Because nobody wants to be unsafe. Nobody wants to feel like the building's going to come down the next time you go in. And so everybody just went, I don't care who does it, stop it. And they said this to Dick Cheney, which is a historically said. Because Dick Cheney knows how government works. Think about that. How did we get that kind of political longevity? And it's because if you know anything about Russian history, which may not have been that much, but the 90s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, were an extraordinarily dark time. If you look at Russian cinema, all they had were gangster movies, right? All they had was the disintegration of society. Things were dark and broken, no trust in each other. Pensions were not great, right? Social security is not great. Like there's nothing to buy, there's nothing to do, there's no job. No one had a future. And so they went, if there's somebody who can lead us out of this, if there's somebody who will fix this, who will find us an enemy, defeat that enemy to restore prosperity, we'll put them on this. We see it happening too. Moment of fear, that typically leads to unfortunate outcomes. So sorry, let me turn this back over to you because we got way off track there.
No, that's all right. I want to bring it back.
Little vials of like fake anthrax. And so I thought, no, we should do it. And so I volunteered to join them. You probably can't tell if you look at me, I'm not really research. And so it didn't work out. I joined a special program called Xtrainer 300Cc, and actually shot at special forces soldier. So you train harder in special platoons, you go, and I ended up with so they put me in a special discharge. Yeah, it was basically what it was when they were shin splints that I was too dumb to get off of, right? So I kept marching. I had a 24-inch waist. But it was just too much on the front and so you keep going when it's stress and at the time I was like, well, it's kind of fun to do that, and I took it. They sent me to sick call, or sort of sick day, or in the medical platoon. And then they let you out once the paperwork was finished. But in hindsight, I realized that if you take an administrative discharge, it's the Army for liability for the injuries. So actually what I thought was a kindness was just, now if I had future problems with legs, they wouldn't have to cut all their health insurance and those things. And it was just, but anyway, I get out of the Army, and here, I'm on crutches for a long time, because I had the basics of performance, security guard position at the University of Maryland because it said you had to get a top secret clearance, which is a higher clearance. With September 11th and having college community change, they no longer cared that I hadn't graduated from college, right? And I had gotten a GED just by going and taking the test. So for government purposes, it was the same as if I was a high school graduate. So now suddenly it was like these doors are open. Now this University of Maryland facility turned out to be an NSA facility. It was called CASL, the Center for the Advanced Study of Language, the University of College Park. And all I realized was literally about the security. We were walking around with walkie-talkie, making sure nobody breaks in at night, managing the electronic alarm system and things like that. But once I had my foot in the door there, I could start climbing the ladder step by step. I applied for, or I went to a job fair, actually. It was only for people who had security clearances. And I ended up going to say that there were technical companies. It was a little tiny subcontract I never heard of. And they said, we've got tons of positions for somebody like you. Are you comfortable working nights? And I was like, yeah. That's fine with me.
So I would say that like 2000-ish years old, just to circle back, so some of these things, this is all on the surface. I don't go digging, it's not me, but the vaqueros do. And that's where they're finding these things intact. They're finding these things intact where you can put them into a CT scanner and it's going to show the whole insides.
Have any paleontologists done, or archaeologists brought these skulls and brought them for examination to try to find out if the results are going to be the same? Yeah, but I don't mean the hoaxes. I mean the elongated skulls with large eye sockets, things along those lines.
There is a lot of the bureaucracy of having to go about doing anything with the Ministry of Culture and the world is it's so disjointed. You can't get things done. You just can't do it. I know. Brian Forster for decades was trying to get to sort of an official path to do DNA studies on these things, and so I mean, I'm hoping with the work that I'm doing with others in the past that some of those boundaries can be moved, where we can actually get permission to study these things, because it's Peru's patrimony. You can't just go in there and
Right. That makes sense.
and so and it costs money to do those things too, and you have to do it in the above board way.
Very nice. Let's move on. Look at this bowl, broken, but pretty interesting. Let's move on. Like, no, what the fuck is going on?
Put some money, figure it out, and
Because if it turns out that there's a totally different branch of the human species,
as well with the elongated skulls. So I believe
they do have great.
years ago, the doctors of the Caracas decided to leave the area because they were being invaded by someone. And so they traveled south through Iraq and Iran to the Persian Gulf. There they wound up sailing and eventually found their way to the coast of Peru. They're different.
yeah.
Well, so that's the thing with theories like this. I'm like, let's put some effort to peer review this stuff. Like let's do the studies that are needed. Have multiple universities test these things, come up with a standard set of results, and then I mean.
Perfection, quality, efficiency. Oh, Michigan's government is pathetic. People burning. We need to shake up the system. We need the world leader in quality and perfection to revolutionize our government. Michigan's Perry Johnson. He'll do for Michigan what he did to help save Detroit's auto industry in the 80s. As governor, Perry Johnson can save our jobs, our families. Stand by. More to come.
teams excavating things
Isn't that alone kind of crazy? How many sites there are in Peru, and the fact that also you have Sacsayhuaman, you have the Nazca Lines, you have all this weirdness in this one part of the world. Like, why?
You have the oldest stone pyramids in the Americas, pyramids that predate the pyramids of Giza by 1,000 years.
What do they look like?
If you look up Corral, they are, dude, I've done a whole thesis on this. Like, I plan to write I don't think I'll ever get a peer review, but I plan to write a paper about my theories on some of the stuff I found. So Corral was this area on the coast. It's Carao, and these pyramids had, Graham Hancock's been looking into this stuff too, this sunken circular plaza. So they're just, this is a,
Whoa. This predates Giza. Oh, well, from 1994, this is what it looked like then. Just looked like anything.
see that on the right?
A person like yourself that studies these places and has dedicated so much time to it, is that in any way frustrating, or does it add to the appeal?
In both,
Well, yeah, 6,000-year-old
So,
site.
there's no one there with you at all, it looks like?
no,
So no one can stop you from
no,
digging in?
Look at that.
no, I mean, if you got caught, yeah, this is just me. I actually spoke to, there was an archaeologist who told me to go to that place, and so I went, and I was the only one there. So my whole thing was I identified most of these places through Google Earth first. Like they're not labeled. These places aren't labeled at all.
Crazy. So these aren't documented
No,
places?
this is. So
This one place right here is?
It's not on Google Earth though. It's not on Google Maps. You won't see any marker of it.
I know that was a giant issue with Egyptian artifacts, and a lot of like wealthy people in other countries would just get it imported to their den and have a big fancy party.
It still happens, and I will have to say that and I mean I've seen it with my own eyes. I've never come across it, like some that say it's an authentic piece that has been owned by the family for this long, so they can get it out of the country to whoever they're selling it to. I think that's how it works. What's a bigger problem though recently, after talking to several archaeologists and witnessing it myself, is agriculture. They actually went to a couple sites that I found this by mistake, looking on Google Earth. So I would find a site and I would roll the satellite date back, because sometimes different seasons give you better imagery. If you're going to be going out there, your places are far away, you know.
Most people on this side are pretty cool.
Wanted to show you this. If you look in my video footage, Purulin Pyramids, P-U-R-U-L-E-N. This site, I think it is much more deserving of future study. It's a site that has 16 platform pyramids.
Wow. And what is this site paid to?
So when I do, this, half my role here is like, I'll go out and
And what's the conventional explanation?
there was one study done on this, and it was a brief survey in 1970. And this guy, yeah, that's it. However, the archaeologist who did that survey, there's another one there. The archaeologist who did this survey has been quoted in the last 30 years saying he always wanted to come back here and do more. Alcove of the mountains, that was the only place. So I went there, and there's bones there, so that's where people were buried. I'm like, why are they burying people here? And I stand right in the middle, and it's facing 89 degrees, almost perfect east-west, that little gap.
Now, how old is this site supposed to be?
So they said, in that report, he says 1800, they found one piece of pottery that's documented. They found one, and
So this is from the 1970 study.
yeah, and so they're saying 1800 BCE, that's right around when pottery started. But in that report, he says it's likely older as well. He thinks it's older and needs more study. That was it. That was the only thing that was put out there. I mean, this is 16 pyramids here, and if you look in my drone footage, you'll see it looks like there's another thing here, another thing there.
So it's in the neighborhood of 4,000 years old, but possibly older.
Correct. And I think it is pre-ceramic, pre-pottery.
The pre-ceramic thing is nuts, alright? So, like, here's the thing. What are they using for utensils? What are they using for plates? Like, what are they using to put their food on? And then, if it is pre-ceramic, what kind of tools did they have? And how are they carving
How they're building these.
this out of the bedrock? I mean, imagine the amount of effort it would take for a human being to bang a rock against another rock to try to do that, and then to make it flat. Are these things level? Are they? They're.
I mean, this is the only modern. Most of my footage is the only modern media in existence of some of these sites.
That's crazy.
Of
It's
that
just
site,
you.
of that site.
Imagine you didn't exist. Imagine if you weren't exposed to that as a 10-year-old video. That's crazy.
Thanks for having me on.
You get me kind of choked up about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, you know, and it's just, it's something in me that
Well, it's like that's the thing. Like, what are we looking at, and why in Peru? And what happened to this area where they had so much sophisticated, complex construction that was absolutely abandoned, and there's almost nothing left?
So they, over the course of, and then it would happen again, and it would go back. And so they would,
It's football. Only better. Medical Best Volleyball. Last simulcast event. Today at 2 Eastern.
this is an interesting site. I don't see it not happening.
Eventually.
Right. It's very difficult to do research out there where it becomes very expensive for you, clothing you need and things like that. But I guarantee that you'll find some stuff off the coast.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially with flying that. I mean, and especially you know that sea levels will fall lower. Especially if that really is 50,000 years ago, we definitely know that sea levels were lower then.
Yeah, it wasn't like this. It's crazy to me. It's like Tom did that he got. I mean, he got so much from the academic community for his research on the.
Kilometers through a mountain to find the particle collider underneath and get exact dimensions and a map of this particle collider. Right? So they know that it's accurate. And then, so what are those pillars? What are these 20-meter?
All the money you can possibly do to figure that out.
I think it'll happen. And I think one of the reasons what's going to happen is because of the internet, is because just the pressure and the amount of interest and caverns and all this shit that's underneath there. Like, what is that?
That's, I mean, and Ben has done phenomenal work putting
Oh,
that
he's
together.
incredible. I love that guy.
The history, the story, and the accounts of being in these labyrinths,
And he's another guy that got into this because of the internet. You know, I mean, he had a real career in tech. He was like, okay, I'm gonna throw this out to be a YouTuber.
I was, I forget who I was speaking to, but I mean, my goal is to document as much as possible before it's not there to document, and I mean, it's crazy to be on here my channel is, I still
You
feel
have the money to go and do these things.
I went for the first expedition. This was a total field of dreams. If you build it, I'll see what happens. and fortunately, I mean, people saw the work I had been doing up until that point. There were some GoFundMe donations, which was amazing.
Are getting you exposure. So the content is so amazing. It's just a matter of people have to find out about it. And then, I mean, YouTube's a great way. The algorithm on YouTube is so good because it'll recommend, while watching your videos, it'll recommend something else interesting, you know. And
They found that sunken plaza underneath archaeological sites in chasm way up here. So you have these two different, and they're saying they were separate cultures. I think they were the same.
how far apart are they?
200 kilometers or miles, I forget. So what I was like, well, is there a connection between these two? So I looked in the valleys in between, and I found this with a temple with a sunken circular plaza. So you just have them.
Found it on Google Earth.
Yeah, and then I went and I needed help from one of the guys in the field. And a lot of the people in these pueblos, like they'll know. Every now and then you'll get lucky and someone knows the history. Every now and then. More often than not, it's there's some ruins right up there, and that's it. That's the extent. That's the extent of the knowledge. And so that was one of these occasions where the guy was like, "You just go this way and that way," and because I was looking for it, I had a pin on my map, but I was getting lost. So I go and I find this place, and lo and behold, there's a sunken circular plaza, temple structure. Driving out in the desert, man, like.
Okay, so this guy's helping you?
Yeah.
Is this the guy a local?
He's just working in the field there.
Okay, so this is a dude.
In so many places, I'm like standing right in the middle of the site. I don't even know until I put the drone in the air. I think.
You know, just that went over in rafts, and that kid Roger went over in a life jacket, and kids and people in barrels who were actually intending to go over the falls and wanted to float down that far.
One guy survived.
A guy in the life jacket survived, and a couple of them in the barrels survived. But the tribe of the Niagara Indians who lived at the indigenous natives who lived at the bottom of the falls were overweight And why were they overweight? Because they didn't run through the forest hunting. They took all of the meat that came through the Niagara River and went over the falls and was dashed at the bottom of the falls. The bears, the wolves, the moose, all of them who drown in the falls, all this wildlife, and they just harvested them.
Talk to you about is that, but this is,
Sure, I bought you a book on all that. yeah.
cool. This is based, on the crystal skulls, right? This is.
Well, yeah, the package is based. Package is based on the crystal heads because we wanted to sell the idea of purity, and you can see it's a nice, smiling, little, happy little skull. It was designed by John Alexander, the great Texas artist. Here's our. This is our wheat version. We have corn in here. We have wheat in here. Have sweet water. I'm just gonna, I want you to just take a sip and then I'm gonna make a nice crystal dog. But just, here's our notes. Cheers, sir. Just a sip. Yeah, cheers. Yeah, indeed. Hey, to our daughters.
To everybody.
Daughters and sons and daughters.
Everybody, sons, daughters, mothers.
It's very good. Sweetness, sweet with that, and we have no additives at all. This is C2H506, just absolute ethyl alcohol, grain alcohol, purified, distilled in a carbon filtration system, not the one with the hose where they just blow it through. No, we distill and we filter. We pour it over Herkimer diamonds.
Diamonds?
Yeah,